Today's recipe calls for a good quality jasmine rice. I'm going to show you how to make super fluffy and perfect stovetop rice. So no need for one of those fancy gadgets they call a rice cooker. We're going to do it the old school way. So with that said, let's get started. The first thing we need to do is talk about rice. There are quite a few different types of rice out there, and they all cook differently from one another. Today, we'll be focusing on cooking a good quality long grain Thai jasmine rice. When choosing a good quality bag of grains from the store, here are a few things to look out for. You want something that has a nice bright color. There is no or a very minimal amount of broken grains in the bag. It should also be very fragrant in the jasmine smell department. If you want to end up with a great end product, it's best to start with great ingredients to begin with. But any Hoosiers, let's start cooking. When cooking rice, the first and most important thing we need to do is rinse the rice. Doing this will clean off any of the loose and excess rice starch. This will help ensure the final product is light and fluffy in texture. If you don't rinse it, the rice will become sticky, clumpy, and lumpy, which we don't want. Toss the grains in a bowl or in the pot you intend to cook the rice in. Add 1 cup or 213 grams of the jasmine to the holding device. Next, add enough cold water that all of the rice is completely submerged. Start to move, swirl, and agitate the grains around in the bowl with your built-in grabber. Do this until the water becomes super white and cloudy looking. The water turns this color because of all the extra starch from the rice. After it looks like this, drain off all of the water. Do your best not to pour any of the expensive grains down the drain. Once you've drained off the cloudy water, repeat the same process and rinse it again. You'll rinse the rice twice. After the final scrub, grab a fine mesh strainer and thoroughly drain off as much water as you possibly can. This will help ensure we don't carry over any excess water, which could throw off our cooking process. Time to prep our liquid. Some people swear by measuring the liquid with the knuckle finger trick. I've never used it, and also everyone is built differently. We all don't come from the factory with the same stock parts. So I'm going to be boring and use a liquid measuring device to measure out 1¼ cups or 300 mils of water. You can add even more flavor by using a stock or broth. Grab a cooking device that has a thick bottom. It's best to use something like this when cooking rice. It'll help distribute the heat evenly and will prevent the bottom layer of rice from burning. It's also imperative you use the right size pot for the job. If you go with too small of a pot, you might deal with overflow issues because the rice is going to double in size during the cooking process. Using too large of a pot will prevent the rice from being submerged in the liquid, preventing it from cooking properly. It's like Goldilocks and needs to be somewhere in the happy medium area, not too big, nor should it be too small. Add all of the rinsed rice to the cooking vessel that fits the needs we're looking for. Grab the H2O and pot of rice and gently throw it down over your heat source. Once on the heating element, add the water. After that's been added, gently shimmy the pan. You'll want to do this to ensure the rice is in one nice even layer. This way we can achieve a even cook. Crank the heat up to a medium high. We'll start the cooking process on a higher heat without a lid on the pot. Don't walk off too far from the pot of rice. Keep a close eye on it because we'll only be cooking the rice like this just until the water hits a simmer. A simmer is when the water is barely starting to bubble. This is the stage before it hits a boil. Once you've reached this point, put a lid on the top of the pot. You want to use a lid that fits your pot properly. This will help keep the heat in for a proper cook. If you don't have that option, you can also use some tinfoil, keep the warmth in. Now that you have the blanket cover figured out for the pot, we need to turn the heat down. Turn the heat down really low. We want the water to be at a very gentle bubble. You want to turn it down to as low as you possibly can with the heat still going. Set a timer and cook the rice at this low temp for 15 to 20 minutes or until it's cooked through and has become fluffy and tender in texture. I made 2 batches of rice when I filmed this video. They both were great, just slightly different results between the two. I rinsed the first batch 3 times and cooked it for 18 minutes. The rice came out great. It was super fluffy. It still had a little bite to it, not very tender, and started
started to stick to the bottom of the pot, which is fine and still makes the rice edible and usable. The second batch was rinsed only twice, and I cooked it for 15 minutes this time, which I think gave me the best results. It was really tender, almost al dente, and it was very fluffy with no sticking issues in the pot or as individual grains. Every pot is built different. The rice quality that you have available to you and the heat source that you use to cook it is going to be different than what I'm using, so times may vary a bit. So you may have to play around with what you use, what you buy, and how long you cook it for to get the perfect texture you're looking for. This video should give you the best results, or it should be used as a guide to give you the best results. During the cooking process, it's imperative to not disturb or mess with the rice. Do not take the lid off to check and see if it's cooking or if it's doing anything at all. Taking the top off will release all of the heat and steam, which will mess things up. Be patient, trust the process, wait for the timer to go off before you do anything. It'll totally be worth it in the end. After the buzzer has rang, now you can take the lid off and check on your rice. There shouldn't be anything going on inside the pot, no simmering, bubbling, anything like that. The rice should have doubled in size. It should also look light, pillowy, and fluffy. All of the liquid should have been completely cooked off as well. You can check this by grabbing a rubber spatula, place it between the side of the pot and the rice itself. Gently push the rice over so you can see the bottom of the pot. If it's completely dry, you know it's done. If not, pat the rice back down, throw the lid back on to cook it for a few more minutes. Once it's done, take it off the heat source with the heat trapper still on top of the pot. We'll allow the rice to rest like this for 5 to 10 minutes. It's imperative to do this. It allows the rice to steam from the residual heat the pot holds. The lid also keeps in the moisture and the heat as well. You're carry over cooking the rice to finish it off. Doing this step will ensure our cooked rice will have the perfect texture in the end. Now that the resting period is over, it's time to fluff up the rice. Fluffing the rice will help make it lighter and hence the name fluffy. This happens by breaking up the giant piece of rice into individual grains. You can use a rice paddle, a fork, or a rubber spatula like I did for this job. Whatever device you decide to use, you want to use it with a delicate hand when fluffing it up. Overworking it and also being aggressive in this step can turn the rice gummy, which will make it a clumpy, flat mess. It's important that you fluff it before serving. We didn't do all that hard work for nothing. Give it a quick taste test to see how well we did. Grab your favorite plate, bowl, or whatever eating device you like. Throw down some of the jasmine rice and top it with whatever you like. Maybe a fried egg with some chili oil and fried shallots, or a piece of fried spam, or keep it simple by only adding some green onions and soy sauce. Whatever you decide to do, just enjoy.
Alright, now that our rice is done, let's give it the old taste-a-roo. So looking at it, it came out nice and aesthetically good looking. It looks super fluffy, and it looks like it's going to be really tender as well. It's super hard to tell, but if you squint hard enough, you can see each rice grain in there. Even though it's a large amount of rice, you can still tell that each piece is its own unit. That just means we cooked it properly, so it holds its shape and form really well. Because if you overcook it, it's gonna blow out and be waterlogged and be one giant mushy mess of rice, but we done good, so let's give it a shot. Our rice came out banging! It's super tasty. Even though we didn't season it with anything, it still has that nice, distinct jasmine flavor to it. It's not overpowering by any means. It's just kind of faint in the background because we used a good rice from the beginning. And since rice is kind of boring on its own, it'll soak up any flavor you add to it, like some spices or any sauces will really soak it up and make it even more delicious. Texture-wise, came out perfect. It's super fluffy and tender and has a great mouthfeel to it. If you ask me, you could just eat this stuff like this, just plain. I think it's good. Rice can be a touch tricky, but the more you practice, the easier it becomes. And once you learn how to make this stuff, you'll be making it all the time. And you can totally flex on your friends because you know how to make perfect rice. So no reason to go buy some crazy expensive ingredients to make some outlandish dish. Just learn to make a perfect rice. because it's the base to so many dang good dishes out there from so many different cuisines, there's endless opportunities. You can make Thai cuisine, use this for meal prep, or make that cilantro lime rice. Crazy how many different things you can do. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching. And I made 2 batches of this stuff because I really didn't like the first one. So now I have a crap ton of rice and I need to figure out what to do with that. So I'm gonna go do that and we'll see you on the next one. And it looks like it's gonna be really tender to the tooth. I gotta remember to breathe when I talk. It's really hard. It's really good. Really good. Thai cuisine, or make that cilantro lime ranch. Rice, not ranch. Enough of that.